welcome to another post off this Mark II Jaguar wide-body two-door coupe, which I'm working on, and also the Landy 101. It's been a bit of a time. I was going to do a video the other week and just couldn't get round for one reason or another. But we have been on with things. It hasn't been going as fast as I would like, but then again, anybody that's been with this channel for a bit, nothing rushes in this place, nothing rushes at all. So anyway, what have we been doing? So I've been working on the Jaguar chair back, designing that. So I welded that up. I'm going to go through what I've done, and then I'll show you each individual bits and pieces where we are with them. So the chair back, Jaguar chair backs. So I've built one. It's nearly finished now. I'm relatively happy with it. I like my ideas that I've got. Could it be better? Yeah, I think it could, but it's certainly nothing to be ashamed about. But you'll see. And I like the idea I've thrown at it. So that's a thing. But I've also been with the chair for the covering. I've been pattern making as well, and none of this is in any way near my expertise, so it's all been a learning curve, and it will continue if I keep going down these avenues, hopefully refining what I'm doing and my understanding. But yeah, so there's the chair back. We spent some time with the Jag stereo system. So I've got the rear component speakers in, and there's obviously the sub in, and I got the head unit. I was waiting for it. I was looking for an aerial. I didn't want to have an external aerial that came out to the wing or anything like that, or sat on the roof or anything, or in the rear quarter panel. I wanted something pretty much hidden away, and I'd seen some stuff that was hidden under the dashboard, but a lot of people saying that they weren't really getting a good strong reception from those. So I got one that fits onto the glass, but it's somewhat intrusive. But I'm going to put it down at the bottom instead at the top. I think it's Blaupunkt. If I pronounce that right, is the aerial. But it's an aerial amplifier, so it should be okay. And it's also got DAB connectivity thing as well. But I need a box for that to go with the radio, because the double DIN I've got doesn't have DAB. Which is strange, because it cost me enough money for that thing. But anyway, but we were playing with that, and we couldn't. First, one side wasn't working, which was strange. Then I found a broken wire in the RCA cables, so I had to fix that. And then the sub wasn't working, and now there was a reversing camera. So we spent quite a bit of time trying to work out, did me and my son, what was going on with that. And it turned out that it's got an handbrake switch trigger wire. And so the stereo, you can't play with any of the major settings on the stereo unless the car is parked up and it's handbrake. Well, I thought it was a power feed into the radio, because it doesn't say, it just says handbrake. It doesn't say it's a power or an earth. So I'd wired it to the handbrake through the light and everything, thinking that's why we work, and it wasn't. It were an earth feed. It's a 5-volt earth feed. But I'm saying earth feed. It's alive, and when the switch triggers it, then anyway. So we managed to get that going. Got the subs, and we were messing around with that, and it sounds fairly good for one side, obviously, because we're running on the back. And the sub, but yeah, it sounded quite good. So yeah, so I was doing that. The Land Rover, so I've been working on the heads. So when I pulled them off, those that's watching, it was pumping quite a bit of water, and I meant to get there were a couple of comments on the water as being condensation. And I had to get it hot before it cleaned it up. Well, we had, and it was the same. It was just pumping it out. So anyway, so obviously did a video, I've taken the heads off, and then I found that the valve guides were worn, and so the valve stems, they were partially worn. So I got a new set of guides, new set of valves. I got some, I think they called them high performance valve guides. Basically the valve guides with the ends machined down to a taper. And they've also got seals, because the original stem guides don't have any seals on them. So this set I got them with seals as well, so it was an upgrade on this head. So the performance guides with seals, and I got all new valves. Now I haven't got those in yet. I made a tool for pulling all the guides out. I had some of the guides pick up a little bit when they were being pulled out, and I warmed them up, and I also drilled them out to relieve the weight of them. But yeah, they pulled it, but it's nothing. It's no damage as such, really. Certainly not worried about it. But I've been port matching, cleaning up the runners in the heads and port matching. So that's what I've been doing the last few days as well, which I'll show you. I'm not porting them out, I'm not polishing them or anything like that. All I'm doing is trying to port match to try and get the flows in and out of the head better. Because when I look at the power graphs of these engines, they're absolutely rubbish of these engines when it comes down to try to produce power as you come through mid-range to top without port matching, and yeah, they're rubbish, absolutely rubbish. But anyway, so I've done that, been doing that. So I didn't bring the tool in I'd made to pull out the guides, because I pulled them out. I didn't knock them out. A lot of people use impact guns or a hammer and drift to knock them out. Some people try and put them in presses, but because of the angle of the valves against the face of the actual head, I couldn't press them out because it was off tilt, and I didn't want to push them off angle, because that probably could have done some damage, and I didn't want to do that. So I made a tool to pull them out, and I've not got it, but I will show you in a video of those later on. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah. So let's go and have a look at the seat first, and then we'll take it from there. I'll show you, I might show you the Jag, I don't know, because really it's all it is sound, and really infringing on copyrights and things with sound music, so I might not show you that at this moment, and there's not really much to look at. But then I'll show you there's definitely, and the exhaust for the Jag. I got in touch with the company a week ago, just on Denberdale Road from where I live. It's only like a 20-minute drive, if that, to this company. Got in touch with them, asking them a few questions about it, and so far I've not had an email back from them. So I'm gonna have to get in touch with them and find out what's going on with that. But anyway, so the exhausts have not been done yet with all the other things I've been doing. So anyway, let's have a look at the seats, and we'll get it from there. Right, so the chair. So it's still not finished. Aluminium, obviously. It's still got some of the protective going on and some tape on just for the edges and stuff. As you can see, I was thinking of press studding the cover on. I didn't want the cover to cover the whole of the chair. And the idea with it being aluminium is that it'll add a dimension to the inside of the car, and also try and lighten it up a little bit. Because everything's so dark in it, which I think I've probably mentioned before. But I was thinking about press studding it on, but I didn't like really the idea of press studding it onto something a bit more catch your attention, if that's a proper term, I suppose. So I've laced it on. So I got some boot hooks, and I periodically set them in all the way around. And then the cover, I designed the cover to go over the frame, so the sponge that's underneath, so the sponge is underneath that. That goes over just to add that little edge to soften it up a little bit, and then I laced it, crisscross laced it all the way around. So that's what I've done there. All I've got to do now is I've got to machine some nuts up to go inside of here. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see. If I pull that back there, you'll be able to see it. Some 6mm alloy plate I've welded it in to reinforce all this for the hinges. I've got to put some captive nuts in there, but I'm going to put it on a plate so that it doesn't start turning around maybe when I try and tighten it up. But yeah, so with the framework, every chair that I looked at for the harnesses that come through, the material it comes over the back, I think, and then they have inserts that go in to cover, to tidy it up. And I didn't want to be making any. And two, I wanted it to be leather, stitched in leather, which was a task. I can tell you, trying to work out and try and get it looking pretty much symmetrical and in the right place and stitched in and to cover it, and then to have it fastened on. So to fasten it on is velcroed, so there's velcro at the back of here to hold that up against there, because there's a curve here, you see. And so, like I say, hold all this on, so it's velcroed at the back. So how did I get it over? Well, at the back of this sponge there's some aluminium with the holes cut out to match the frame of the chair back. That went in, so I sewed this up and then I pushed through and glued on to the aluminium, and so that is now held in with the aluminium, so it can keep that form there. So that took me some time trying to work that out. So I was trying to come up with ideas of how to get this to do what I wanted it to do, and I was coming up with all sorts of stuff, how to stitch it on, and you know, what was the best way, what sort of things I could do to try and make this insert here. Like I say, I've tried to come up with all sorts to try and come up with something, and eventually came up with what I call my solution, which was I made this out of MDF. So that's the holes, and what I did was I made a cardboard template of that chamfered recess there for the hole, and then I opened it out and that gave me my template. I'm not sure where I've got it actually. I've got loads of templates and stuff here. In fact, I'll show you. That is the aluminium back, because I've made, for this, every time I've done a part, I've made another part for the other chair. So that's the aluminium back. But the template, I've got tons of templates. So these are all a load of my templates I've made for all the relevant bits, and then I've cut them out. So I've got huggins of cut parts to make it all up. Yeah, so the templates, cardboard templates there, I cut them out, the leathers, then I stitched them across the top. This is just obviously a trial piece, so it was just bits I got together. But stitched at the top, which you can just see there, and then I folded it over, glued it, the edge. Put those there. So I folded the edge over after where I glued it and folded it over. Then I stitched it. So that was my first stitch, and then my second stitch was to fasten it to this piece of leather here. And because it sat over, it was pulling in. I wasn't bending anything over, it was just bending it in slightly. Because one of the things, if I try to sew it two pieces together like that, when you try bending it, it was causing all sorts of problems. So I want to take some of the bending out. So that was that. Then that went onto there, and I could make sure that I got enough material at the back here. Same thing, I stretched it around the corners here, and that gave me my inserts for here. And then I put my leather on, this piece here, onto here, and I glued this piece into it to hold it in place, and then I stitched it all on. I tried holding it with these bulldog clips, because I've been stitching the leather up with the bulldog clips, because you can't obviously put pins in and stuff, because once you put an all-in leather, it's an all-in leather and you can't change it. Once it's in, it's in. So I've been using bulldog clips, but I tried that and it was just causing all sorts of problems. So glue. So I got some super glue, strong stuff, just to hold it together so I could stitch it in. So that's how I've done that. This insert here is the bit that goes into there, like so, and this piece here is the piece that covers that there, which I'm working on at the moment. And because it's got a step down here which comes underneath the back of these side edges here, I needed to make sure that it was held in. So what I've got is some stainless steel wire, 316 wire, and this goes inside that edge there, like that. So that goes in there, and when it's fastened down, it pulls that down into that corner there. So it'll pull that in. So it won't be pulling at an angle, it'll be pulling it down, because that's where the wire will go. So that's what those wires are for. I was messing around somewhat with the pattern because I've had to make it into pieces. I couldn't think of any real way I could have stitched it and put the diamond pattern in one piece without making it look bodged. I've got it relatively, the patterns match relatively well, but it was awkward because I've got 9 panels in there, and trying to sew it all up, and especially these corners as well. I've had a right job trying to get these corners here as it comes, because this bit comes in slightly, and then, like I said, there's this step here that comes down into this corner of the sponge. So I've had a bit of a joy with that. Still, like I say, I'm still learning this stuff, but it doesn't look bad. I'm sure a professional could turn around and say, oh, you're doing it all wrong, and you know what, you'd be absolutely right, probably. But because I'm a welder and not a seamstress, that's my excuse. But it doesn't look that bad. So, on these here, because, let me just get off there. This has got form as well. It's not just flat. So these straps here, these white straps, come through the back there. So they come through there and they're just tied off just to pull it in, and then I've cut a groove all the way down there, and same there, where this edge then will pull in. So it's not pushing it off, it'll be pulled in to the actual grooves. And same with these here, I'll be cutting across there when I've marked that, just so they can sit in. I'll put a bit of glue in just to hold those in, to give that all that, you know, form. So that, if you can see, looks, I think it looks quite good. I think it looks quite good. When it's in the car, we'll certainly get a better idea of how good or bad a job, a design idea I've got. But I think it's better than that. Now, I did like the seat up to here, but it was the only thing I could get which came forward, because I've made it into a coupe. I did, like I say, I did like the chair. It's just this was too wide. More than anything, it was just too wide. The B post here, Same at the other side of the car. When these were sat in, it was extremely close to the B-post, and there was very little gap in between the chair, this one, and the passenger chair. So with all that, it was like, that's why I decided to change it. So, but that was my first stitching job as well. So yeah, so that's where we're at with the chair. I don't think there's nothing really to show with the stereo of the Jag really. When I get the door, because I'm putting all the component speakers in the doors, I really can't put them anywhere in the front of the car, but I haven't got that far. I've just started working on bits and pieces for the doors, so there's not really much. And like I say, you've seen the amps before in the boot, so that really, there's really nothing to show there. And like I say, if I put any music on, I'm going to infringe on somebody's copyrights, and that's a load of aggro in itself. Because like I said, this channel's not monetized, so putting, like I say, the proper adverts on it, and it's nah. So, but when I get it all done, then I'll show you it all together. But you've seen all this, you've seen the stereo and stuff. So let's go look at the heads, and I'll show you what I've been doing with port matching, just cleaning up and stuff. I'm on with the manifold with the carbs on. I'm cleaning, I'm port matching those up, and I've used the steel gasket as the template for the heads and the manifold. So let's go have a look at that. So part of my video was lost, so I'm now at my own at my workshop, and I started working on the heads. Come up on a bit of a hitch, but the bit that I lost was about the porting, I believe. So what I did was I got the gasket, the steel gasket. It goes from head to head. Set it up in place on here. I marked around it, and then I just carefully ground out the ports to match the manifold when it goes on. I've done the same to the manifold, which I think in the other bit of the video you can actually see that. So I did that. Also, where the port came to the inlet, there were some huge steps in here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it right well, but so I've not opened them out. All I've done is cleaned up the rubbish that was in there. There was so much rubbish in there, it's unreal. So that's what I did with the heads. I've not done the exhaust because I didn't feel that they really needed it. We're not going that far. I just wanted to try and help this engine breathe a bit better. That's why I've done this, that's all. What I've also done, I said I bought new guides. So I got some performance guides, inlet, exhaust. Also, I got them with seals. So the original guide was a plain guide. It had no seals or anything, it's just a guide. Upgraded, so I got the seals which go on the ends. So I also bought, obviously, new valves. No point putting old valves with new guides. So valves, I got new valves. Now the thing about the valves was they had a lip from the manufacturer, so the air fuel coming into the chamber would hit the valve and it would catch it. So that was a restriction. So I bought an 8-9mm collet for an ER40 collet chuck, which I mounted in the lathe, and I put that in there, and I just took the lip off in the lathe, just to help gas flow over the valve. So I did that. I started putting in, before I go any further, I said I'd show the tool that I made for pulling out the guides. So the original guide, which I pulled out, this is the tooling which I used. So that's not that, that's that. So this is the ram. It's a board ram. What happened was, I'd have, let me just get one. I'd have a high tensile steel M8 bolt. This is a 12.9 grade bolt. This came through the valve guide like that to this side here. This tool here I made went onto that like that. Now this is a 45-degree angle here, which matches the valve seat. That goes on there. This then would screw onto that. Like so. The ram would go over. Then this will come in at the back here. And all this are machined up at work. So that's how it was. And then I just jack it with the pump here to pump the ramp, which would pull the seal, which it did. So that worked quite well. So this morning I've come into work to actually pull these guides back in, the new ones, and I've come across a number of problems. First problem, when I should have studied this better really when I got this up, but I just got it and it was just being on my shelf and I'm just pulling that and it was pulling it back together. Slightly shorter, but the chamfer here obviously just not on there, and I got these and I thought, oh, they're just same length, but they're slightly shorter, and like I said, the chamfer, so when it pulls through the bar, I didn't take away any of the bossing which goes around the guide, so it's through, but there's a bit of a gap down the edge of this to where the bar is. So that I'm having now to sort that out. I was talking to a friend, he says it'll bug you, so I'm going to sort that. So I've got 8mm to drop of the bossing in there to match up with this edge here. Also, when I was pulling it through, I broke a bolt. Now that was taking round about 150 to 160 bar of pulling pressure before it broke. Now when I was pulling them out, it was doing less than that, and they've been in for donkey's years, and I thought it doesn't seem right. Anyway, I put another one in, the exhaust in, and it was just as tight. I thought, what's going on? Anyway, I couldn't get it down. It mashed it up, the guide. So I've taken it out, and it's galled the bar quite heavily. And I thought, this isn't right. This is not right, is this? So I measured the bar with my telescopic gauge and my micrometer. So the bar is 15.05 to 15.052. So I'll say that again, 15.04 to 15.052 of a millimetre bar. I measured the new guides. The guides are 15.13 to 15.12 to 15.13. And I thought that seems really quite a heavy interference fit. So I've just been online, and the interference fit is 2 thou. 2 thou is 0.0508 of a millimetre. So I am absolutely nearly double that over. So what it appears to be, and they are correct for this head of these guides, I was quite meticulous in making sure they're right. What it appears to be is that I think what's happened is when they pull the guides out of the head, any damage that's done, they just ream it out and they put these slightly oversized. I will be corrected on that, but that's what I think's going on. Because everyone I pulled out galled a little bit, not heavy, and I drilled them to relieve the weight, and I warmed them up, and they still caught a little bit in places. But this is, it's made a bit of a mess of me exhaust bar part. So what I've got to do now is I've got to get a reamer, 15.08 millimeters, and that should put me 0.06. I think 0.06 under what the number should be for the interference, if I've got that right. Anyway, I've got things, but it's 15.08. So that's what I've got to do. So I've got to ream them all out now to put these guides in, which has annoyed me a bit because I was hoping to get them all in and show a video of me pulling them all in. But pulling them in is the same. I've made a tool here, which goes on the end of the guide like that. And when I pull it in, it sits into there and stops. And that's its predetermined depth length, measured from the other valves. So that's where we are. I've also done the radiator. I've made a radiator, so that video, but that was on my phone. So it's a bit, this video is going to be a bit all over the place, but back to where we left off last time I was doing the video. So battery went flat on camera, so there might be a slight little step in the overlap here, but I was discussing the airflows and the restrictions and things. And one of the things I mentioned was, I was talking about the feed pipe from the air filter to the two inlets for the carbs, and I modified that so it was a T-section. So this is the bit the two carbs go onto. That there just came into there, so it's teed in. That there is a massive restriction of airflow. I would have rather had it coming in and spread both ways, but obviously because of the airbox where it is and the pipe and everything, I was still limited to how I got it in. But like I said, I kept the pipe and I chopped it off and I put this piece in. So the air that comes in now, there's less turbulence in there. Yes, I will have some here, but nothing like there was, because it's easy to move around is the air in that. So that's what I did with that, just to try and out air into the carbs. So that's that. I'll be guides putting in probably this week for the heads, and then it's cleaning, putting the new valves in. So hopefully next week, few weeks, cross fingers, we can have this back together. I forgot to mention my radiator, which I think I've mentioned before that it was busted. So this is a radiator, and it corroded down at the bottom there. I tried fixing it, but it was still leaking a little bit. It wasn't horrendous, but I looked online to see if I could find a radiator, and the only place that I could find was 101 Parts. But over £400 for a radiator was like, no, not spending that money. There was a company in Dewsbury where I live who reconditioned radiators, but they've either closed or moved. The chaps that were there, one of them was quite old, and I used them for my Black Jag for doing a radiator on that, recoring that, and it was quite reasonable really. But it's not where it used to be. There's a place in Huddersfield that does them, but I thought I'll see if I can buy one. There's lots of people making aluminium radiators, and I thought I'll see if I can find one that's close to the dimensions that I wanted. I found a number of radiators was quite close, but there was still a bit of messing around, and I still have to do some modifying, and they were still quite pricey. A lot cheaper still than from 101 Parts, and I'm not snubbing 101 Parts. If you can't get the parts, it's tough. You just got to pay for it, haven't you? If you can't fix them or anything, you've got to pay for it if you can't get them, if it's rare. Captive audience, isn't it? Anyway, so I'm looking to try and find a alley radiator. Couldn't find anything that exactly fitted my bill. So I thought I'll look at Range Rover. Same engine, the early Range Rovers, Mark 1. See if there's anything. So I started looking there, and I found, but they were the copper ones, I think the first ones. But when they went to the P38, I think they changed to aluminium. Well, it is aluminium, but I'm not sure if I think the early ones were copper and the later ones are aluminium. But I got the dimensions, and they're pretty much bang on exactly the same for a P38 radiator, and they're aluminium. And I thought, well, that's a ticks up because I can make some end caps. So I thought I'd buy a second-hand radiator. So I did. I went on eBay, as I always do, and I got myself a radiator, P30 radiator. 25 quid. I thought, I'm not going to sniff my nose at that. It's like, that'll do me. If it doesn't work, I've not really lost anything. So I bought this radiator. The guy said it was good. So I built it. So here we are. So that's my radiator, what I built. So the end caps, all the ends, so the bleed off, drain there. I machined that. I made the ends for the pipes to go on. Made some nice tooling for that to put a little swaged lip in it, which was quite cool, I must say myself. The little feed pipe goes to the manifold. That was a scalpel that I had, an old scalpel, which was just perfect board and everything. So that, and then this here, filler cap top, that came with the radiators where I built on the Jag. I kept it, so I had one today. So I built it, and as you can see with the pipes, pressure tested it obviously just to check to see if I got any pinprick holes or anything in welding. Now I did have a job trying to weld this because it was quite corroded when I got it. So I did have quite a job, so I was doing a lot of pumping on the pedal to weld this. But I managed to get it somewhat like, considering what it was. And then I pressure tested it, and that's why I've got the pipes on. So I pressure tested this. And to my annoyance and horror, even at 25 quid, it's hammered as the car. When I was assured that it was a good car. So, because I've modified it, I'm expecting, well, I'm not expecting, I'm presuming that the chap who I bought it off is going to say, well, you modified it and that, so obviously it's sure it's done that. So I'm half-cocked whether to actually bother getting in touch with him just to say, look, this radiator you sold me is dodgy. And like I say, I can take some pictures and video of it, because I use soapy water, so I do bubble, compressed air and bubble, soapy water bubble test, and it's like I say, it works every time. So if you're trying to find a leak in anything, soapy water and compressed air works every time. If there's a leak, it'll bubble and you just get bubbles. So yeah, so inside the car, so inside there, one of them, can't remember which end it is, but one of them in there is leaking. In the car down in there, on the edge there. So there are stainless steel clamps, because these are plastic end caps. Stainless steel clamps holding it all together. It's corroded underneath, but it's corroded inside. So the rubbish on outside that's corroded some of the cars. And some of the edges here has corroded. And I think some of it was from outside, and I think some of it was from inside. So, for all the work that I did, it all has to come back off now. And like I say, I'm half-cocked whether to get in touch with chap to see what it can do for me. Because I wasn't so much bothered about it looking ropey, you know, the cooling fins and anything like that can all be cleaned up. It just didn't have to leak, that's all I was after. Well, like I say, 25 quid, it's not a big deal, but still I didn't want to buy a 25 quid radiator at least, because it's useless, in it. It has no purpose except for bin. So yeah, so that's where we are with that. Unfortunately, like I said, I put it together yesterday and I was proper chuffed. I thought, right, all I have to do is pressure test it, and then I've got these end plates to go ends of here like that, because that's how they're mounted. So you've got a bracket comes off chassis and fastens on one face there, and then the other face here goes the cowling for the fan. So I thought, before I weld these on, I'll just test it, and like I say, it leaks. So that's where we are with things. There isn't anything else. But like I say, I've been relatively busy with things, and something, yeah, it is slow. It's always slow, and I'm not going to make any arguments for that. but we'll get in there. I'm really chuffed that the electric sync jag didn't go up in flames when I switched batteries on, because I'd actually never had batteries on, you know, switched on, because I've got 2 isolators on it. When I was wiring it up, the schematics I drew, I used some schematics, original schematics for XGS, because it's obviously the engine ECU, that's XGS, and for the fuel pump and stuff like that, and some of it was original Mark II Jaguar schematics I used, because obviously I was using some of the harness from that, and obviously I had to put my own bits and pieces in, so I was using schematics from a few other schematics, and I was drafting all those in. So to make sure that it was running right with the fuse boxes and stuff that I put in everywhere, I was using the battery charger with low current, just to make sure everything was right, which it was. And like I said, when I switched it on, I was hoping that I hadn't messed up anywhere, and I haven't, thank goodness for that. At least everything I've turned on so far hasn't gone bang anyway, so that's good. But yeah, so yeah, other than that, let's I'm just going to keep at it, see where we get. So this is the old 101 radiator, which was leaking there. I made another one, which I talked about in my video, and it's there in the scrap. So I took the ends off, cut all my parts off it which I'd made, and then bought a new one. So instead of getting another second-hand one and messing around, I thought I'll just get a new one. So I bought a new one, 82 quid or 84 quid or something. Brand new, as you can see, still vacuum sealed in its bag. So I'm going to do the same as what I did to the one that was leaking. I made some new end caps. So these are the end caps I made. So just like I say, all the bits I cut off, I just refastened them back onto these new bits. So not bad penetration there. So yeah, so I'm going to be putting this together. So yeah, see what happens. So got the end caps off there, dead easy on this one. Well, the other one was easy, but this one has the tabs fastened to the end caps, which goes onto the car, whereas the other one had actual clips that went over the side there and then was pressed over onto the plastic to hold it down, so it clamped the two together. Whereas this one, they've just made this cap all part of the tabs. They bent over really easy. I did start to cut them with the grinder there, but I thought it's they seem really quite soft as I started to move them, so I've just gone round with a screwdriver, literally. It's a screwdriver, and just lifted them up, and they bent really easily. Really soft aluminium. So yeah. So the next thing is I'm going to trim these tabs off and just tidy the edge up, because obviously we're bending it up. It's lifted it a little bit, as you can see. So I'll just flatten this down with an hammer and a dolly, and then there'll be the end caps which are sat over there on MIG, and I'll weld them on, and cross fingers this time we'll have no problems. So next bit. So welded up, bit of a job on with that. I really should have thought more about the edge there. I tacked it on to try and stop it bowing, as it would take the heat, but it still bowed, and so I was chasing a gap, so that became extremely difficult, because the thickness of the end caps for the car were only like 1.2 mil or something like that, really quite thin, and there was quite a bit of rubbish coming out as well, so I don't think the grade of aluminium was that great. But anyway, that's not an excuse. What I should have done was I should have put a little fold lip on my caps to stop it bowing, or to help cut down on it bowing, because I could have made it sit in the bottom. So in here where the seal was, there is quite a bit of space there, so that would have taken a nice fold from my caps. But anyway, we did it. It's not the world's greatest alley welding, but it's done there. I'm just about now to put the end plates on, so what I've done is, in fact, let me just show you. So the mounting, that's 8mm alley. Now this alley is the A grade alley which came off the 101. So it's not that soft, so it'll take the M6 bolts quite well. The other tabs I've put in are for the cowling, the fan cowling, and they're 4mm. I think it's 4mm. I think it's 4mm. So I've just tacked those in and I've drilled and tapped them. Don't know if you can see it on this. Yeah, there you go. So M6, M4, and so I'm just setting these in now, and I'm just going to TIG around them, and then that should be it. It's done. I pressure tested it. Like I say, nothing amiss there. Perfectly okay, and yeah, I'm happy with that. I will show you the tool I made. That's a tool there for flaring these here, but it means I've got to unwrap it, and I'll do that a bit later on. Then I'll show when I finish welding these end plates on. I'll show you that as well, and how that worked. Yeah, so here we go. This is what we have. These are the 3 parts that I made. This piece here with a step in it, that's what set the top part before the actual flaring. This is a support for the tube to stop it collapsing externally, and obviously it's a stop as well when this comes down to it, well, near it anyway. And this goes inside, so I'll show you if I can while I'm balancing my phone here. So pipe, this is a 35mm pipe, 1.5 wall thickness. So I machined this, so it's just a nice fit onto there. This tube then goes inside there, like so, and this pipe here was cut to a length which matched the bottom of this tube here. This is a bit of seamless steam pipe which I got from work. Same with this, and obviously this is the same bit as that. So the aluminium pipe was cut to a specific length. Like I said, this goes in here to support internally, this goes here to support externally, and the step is going to touch onto there, and that's what's going to push the pipe that way. So when it was all set up, that was sat like that, and there was a gap like so. The aluminium pipe was cut to there, so that's pretty much how it was, and so my length, and then like I said, this gap here was set. I think I set it about 1 centimetre, this gap, and then I put it in the hydraulic press and I pressed this down, and because it was an even pressure pushing down and it was supported internally and externally, it had to swage out, and that was the easiest way to make the pipe, which I'll show you. So that's the pipe. You can see internally where it's pressed it down. So if I just take off, just bear with me a second. Try to strip all this down. Now I've got it stuck. I'm going to edit this. Anyway, so this step went on to there. You can see It's not down properly, but there we go. So that sat there like that, and that's how it put that step in, because it just squashed it and it had to push out. And I did both of them the same, which worked out really cool, so I was happy about that. So there you go, radiator done, about time. But anyway, as always, I am grateful for all those who listening to my rants about what I'm doing here and being patient, that it doesn't move fast. I do realise that some people do want to see things turned around really quickly, but in my book, life isn't like that. Sometimes it takes quite a time to climb a mountain, but it's when you get to the top of the view it's impressive, and that's what I'm after. I'm trying to get something that's right, and I'm not cutting corners. I'll do what I can to the best of my ability. So yeah, it takes as long as it takes. Because like I say, I'm modifying, I'm not just putting together, I'm modifying. So, but anyway, thank you again for all those who, I don't know if it's keenly interested in it, but interested in it enough to keep watching and inputting. I'm grateful for all the inputs, for everything that comes in. Constructive criticism is always the name of the game in my book. If I can learn something, I will, if it's worth it. And yeah, so you all take it steady, and I'll try and get some pictures as well. I'll get some pictures of these parts so you can see better. But yeah, take it steady until this, well, always take it steady. Hopefully see you all in the next video which I produce, which maybe land will be running. Hopefully I'll have the manifolds for Jag sorted, so that'll be close to running with Jag, because like I say, just wants oiling up and fueling at radiators piping up, so an exhaust putting back on when I get it ceramic coated. So yeah, take it steady and see you on the next one.